Very good morning. You're watching our rolling coverage on the first phase of polling. 58 seats, viewers, across 11 districts go to polls in the first phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh. What is interesting and why, this is practically a do-or-die battle. Well, the Gathbandhan, which is of the Samajwadi Party, the RLD, is hoping to make inroads, which has practically been a BJP bastion in 2017. This is where the BJP made massive gains. And just to give you an example on how big those gains were, of the 58 seats that go to vote today, 51 then, which came down to 53 later, 53 seats here are held by the BJP. Well, 3 hours before polling in the first phase, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, released a video message. Listen in to what the Chief Minister said this morning.
आतंकी बार-बार धमका रहे हैं कि जरा सरकार आने दीजिए, सावधान रहिए, आप चूके तो 5 साल की मेहनत पर पानी फिर जाएगा। और इस बार उत्तर प्रदेश को कश्मीर, बंगाल और केरल बनते देर नहीं लगेगी। आपका वोट मेरे 5 वर्ष की तपस्या पर आपका आशीर्वाद तो है ही, पर यह भी ध्यान रहे कि अब वोट आने वाले वर्षों में आपके भयमुक्त जीवन की गारंटी भी बनेगा।
All right, about 3 hours before polling in the first phase, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, giving out that message, talking about two things, viewers, and that is practically been right now in what you see on ground, the campaign of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And I want to bring in our National Affairs Editor, Rahul Srivastava, who's joining me from Lucknow on this. Rahul, the Chief Minister releasing that video clip 3 hours before the first phase of polling. Two issues he's touched on, which has been practically the BJP's campaign, at least in Western Uttar Pradesh. Number one, he talks of not voting for the BJP will make UP like Jammu and Kashmir, West Bengal. He talks of the law and order situation. There have been two things, Rahul, that when I have been at least in Western Uttar Pradesh that I have seen is the BJP's campaign. Number one, of course, has been Suraksha, law and order, and the other one is a very strong communal polarizing pitch.
Good morning, Preeti. See, what is at stake for the BJP? You see, Yogi Adityanath will break 35-year-old jinx of Uttar Pradesh of being voted back to power. Second, very importantly, he'll be the first Chief Minister in UP to have served a full 5-year term and be voted back for another 5 years. And the BJP, if you see the kind of dominance, if you take the first phase, 53 out of the 58 seats, in 23 seats out of these 58, mostly urban seats, the BJP had over 20% victory margin, and that's doing phenomenally well. So much so that if it is called the Jat-dominated belt, the BJP had 77% vote share. Now, that is why the reminders. Today, it is Yogi Adityanath. Before that, last night in an interview, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that spectre of fear, that reminder to the public that if you don't vote for us, and vote for the new look alliance between Samajwadi Party and the RLD, it will be the same situation for which you had voted these people out and voted us in. If you see the BJP, how it has gone about, that there are definite jitters. Because one, predominantly, if you would have noticed during your travels recently, that the polarization of 2013 and after 14, 17 and 19 is over. If it operates still underground, but it is not as dictating as it was in these 3 elections. In that scenario, the BJP is definitely apprehensive, because even if you take the OBCs and the non-OBCs and the other votes, in those belts where they have voted, the BJP had got their votes, but not as significant as the Jat vote and the upper caste vote. In that scenario, you had Prime Minister yesterday reminding two very critical elements, the law and order element and the Parivarvad. If there is disgruntled youth, if there are people unhappy, the Prime Minister's message was that talent and young newcomers don't have any possibility in parties like the RLD or the Samajwadi Party. The idea was perhaps to remind people that things went wrong for you when Samajwadi Party was voting, and vote for us. perhaps what you see is the underline could well be that there is bit of a negative campaign, and that perhaps underlines the worries for the Samajwadi, for the BJP, and that is why you see this strong messaging on law and order and other elements by Prime Minister and Yogi Adityanath.
You know, Rahul, before I cut across to my colleague Shreya, she's joining us from Agra, an important Dalit pocket. I'm going to come to you, Shreya, but just give me about a minute. I want to go back to Rahul Srivastava for a quick question again. You know, Rahul, there are a lot of issues, you know, the factors that we've been constantly talking about. Of course, you know, a lot of emphasis, some would suggest an overemphasis being given to the Jat vote in this area. Will the Muslims consolidate, or will the Muslims, you know, be divided? You know, in places like Muzaffarnagar, the Gathbandhan has not put up a single Muslim candidate. The BSP has 4 on those 6 seats. What's also, you know, a big question here, Rahul, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the transfer of seats within the alliance. Because, you know, whenever we've been traveling, we seem to, you know, get a feeling that in areas where people have made up their mind to vote to Samajwadi Party, they will transfer their vote to the RLD. But especially where the Jat community is concerned, there are a lot of apprehensions at the back of 2013 to vote for a Samajwadi Party candidate. That whole issue of cycle pe button nahi dabega, because, you know, they still resent what happened in 2013 and what they perceive on how Samajwadi Party dealt with the situation.
Preeti, you know Jat politics. In Jat politics, there are no subcastes among Jats. They have largely ruled by Khas. Now, the scars of 2013 may not have completely disappeared, and that is why you see that the Jat vote could well get divided. Now, in the seats where the Jats are dominating, see, we call them dominating, which is, I think, a bit misleading, because in none of the constituencies where they're called dominating, they are more than 50% of the Muslim vote. Now, if you see the Muslim vote in the first phase, largely or the entire UP, 58% of the vote last time around in 2017, 2014 and other later went to the Samajwadi Party. That's where lies the catch. Samajwadi Party controlled the vote of the Muslims. But if you go back to the RLD, if their strength is the Jat vote, 77% of the Jat vote went in 2014 to the BJP, more in 2017, and 90% went in 2019. So if the RLD snatches away and takes away the Jat vote, it is taking perhaps a small portion of the vote bank. So RLD's capability to transfer vote will be tested, and how dominant the Jat vote is already known. In that scenario, the RLD stands to benefit because Muslims are double of the Jat vote in most of the constituency called the Jat dominated. It is eventually the RLD which is going to be a beneficiary than the Samajwadi Party. And in that scenario, the very critical element are the votes of the other OBC castes, which are prevailing, which are very important in these areas.
Yes.
They range from 30% to 40%. And the BJP's upper caste vote, Preeti, out of the 22 seats in urban, BJP won 21, and most of the seats it won as far as the upper caste seat dominated are concerned.
Well, you're right there, Rahul. You talk about the other caste, subcastes as well. I'm standing in Aligarh. You know, there is a strong Jat percentage here. There is a strong percentage where the Muslim vote is concerned. But importantly here, the possible X factor could be the Lodh community from where, and it's an OBC, from which came Kalyan Singh. You know, it's all interesting what all happens during polling. They have a monkey that is sitting on this, and they're trying to get rid of him because he's getting aggressive. It's all in a day's work. But, you know, I'm going to cut across right now to my colleague Shreya. But before that, let's listen in to the Agra mayor, who is just casting his ballot.
ये हमारा अधिकार है और हमें वोट डालने मतदान करना ही चाहिए एक अच्छी सुशासन के लिए, एक अच्छे शासन के लिए जिसमें सभी का भला हो, गरीबों का, दलितों का, महिलाओं का। इसलिए हर किसी को मतदान करना चाहिए और मुझे पक्का विश्वास है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी के पक्ष में ही जनता वोट करेगी और मैं अपनी जीत के प्रति भी आश्वस्त हूँ।
All right, viewers, let's cut across right now to my colleague Shreya, joining me from Agra. Very good morning, Shreya. You know, we've spoken about the Jat factor where Baghpat, Muzaffarnagar is concerned. We've spoken about the Muslim factor, largely concentrated in Western UP, 28%, way more than what it is in Eastern UP. Talk to us, Shreya, about Agra and the Dalit pocket in Agra. A lot of, they say that a possible influencer could very well be this time in which way the Dalit votes.
Well, absolutely so, Preeti. You know, it's an extremely interesting fight here in Agra because it's exactly 9 days back that Mayawati started her campaign here in Agra on the 1st of February after she was not seen for a very long time. Now, the BSP is eyeing to snatch back Agra, which was once considered the BSP bastion, being the Dalit capital of Uttar Pradesh. Last time in 2017, BJP had bagged all those 9 seats. This time, however, there's some little difficulties there for the BJP where the previous poll promises have not been fulfilled. There is some resentment on the ground. Apart from that, we also saw that there were 5 of the sitting candidates that was replaced by the Bharatiya Janata Party, leading to some skirmish within the local cadres. Now, BSP is trying to get that factor as well. Now, SP and RLD is also not behind. They want to break their Agra jinx because somewhere down the line, even in 2012, remember, when the SP magic worked in Uttar Pradesh and Agra, it did not work. So the RLD also, they wanted to cut into the core vote bank of the BSP, and in the Agra rural seat where Baby Rani Maurya has fielded, remember Mahesh Jatav has been fielded by the RLD. So an extremely interesting contest here in Agra, the Dalit capital of Uttar Pradesh.
All right, so Agra, the Dalit pocket, interesting, lots of pockets, and we're sad to say, but ultimately when it comes down to Uttar Pradesh, community, caste, fault lines, all of that comes into play. We're going to continue to get you the very latest viewers. The big question on the 58 seats, let's break it up into factors. Will the Jat vote consolidate or divide? Will the Muslim vote consolidate or divide? What about the Dalit factor? Will the conspicuous absence or the ground level absence of Mayawati leave an impact, especially on the non-Jatavs? Will they be the X factor this time around? And what about other communities? Let's not forget, you have a sizable percentage of, maybe not sizable, but enough to impact a few seats and swing those seats in one way or the other, the Gujars as well. And the Gujars, what at least I found was very interesting, they do not vote on communal lines. Even if there is a Muslim who is a Gujar, they will not. There are Muslim Gujars as well. They will go with him even though, there is a huge communal pitch trying to lure them. So it's all interesting how the cards will fall this time around. Do stay with us, our rolling coverage as the first phase of polling begins in the state of Uttar Pradesh. 58 seats, viewers. Go to polls and trust India Today to get you a deep dive on each of those seats and what really goes down. A quick break to stay with us. Our coverage continues on the other side with Rajdeep Sardesai.